Here are the top stories for today, February 2nd, 2021. President Rodrigo Duterte assured that the government is trying its best to keep the Philippine economy afloat. Malacanang urges the Department of Environment and Natural Resources to look into the purpose of the Chinese dredging vessel in the country. Investigators said extortion is the motive behind the bombing in Tulunan, North Cotabato. And village watchmen or barangay tanods in Iloilo City received Japanese bikes to boost their mobility. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. President Rodrigo Duterte appealed to the public to keep their faith in his administration amid the sinking of the Philippine economy. Duterte said the government is doing its best to balance Filipinos' health and the economy. The Philippine Statistics Authority, or PSA, earlier said the economy sank by 9.5% last year. This is said to be the worst economic performance since after World War II.
According to the Secretary of Finance, araw-araw ngayon hanggang matapos tong COVID, araw-araw we are losing 2 billion na pera para sana yon sa mga tao. The workers, the Filipino workers would have earned that money kung ang ekonomiya natin gumagalaw. Kaya nga hindi. So we are sinking deeper and deeper. Pero hindi lang rin tayo. O hindi tayo. Lahat. Pero we are trying our very best to keep us afloat.
Amid criticisms over the government's vaccine rollout, President Duterte guaranteed that there are enough funds to pay for COVID-19 vaccines. He said the country's greatest disadvantage is that it is not as rich as Western countries that have already pre-ordered 80% of the global vaccine supply.
As I have told you before, ganito yan, meron tayong pangbayad. Ang Asian Development Bank, pati ang World Bank, magpahiram sa atin para ibayad natin sa vaccine na bilihin natin. Yung mga price, hagling lang yan. Eventually, yung mag-taper off yan into a uniformity sa prices.
The president also slammed critics claiming corruption in the government's COVID-19 vaccine procurement. He said vaccine procurement and rollout will be done in accordance with the rule of law.
Do not be so gullible and basta maniwala na lang kayo. Talk about corruption left and right. I mean, it starts with a big bang and it ends with a whimper. You have a choice. Maniwala kayo sa kanila o maniwala kayo sa amin. Kung maniwala kayo sa kanila, go ahead. Sige, walang nagpipigil sa inyo. Ngayon, kung may naiwan na maniwala sa amin, just keep faith with us. At the end of the day, you will see that everything has been done in accordance with the rule of law.
The Philippines is not lagging behind its Asian neighbors in terms of COVID-19 response and vaccine rollout. According to presidential spokesperson Harry Roque, the government is not using its COVID-19 response as propaganda. He said the government is simply using data obtained from the World Health Organization to report on the country's global ranking. Roque made this announcement after Vice President Leni Robredo said the government should not use its COVID-19 response as propaganda, but a way to resolve issues sooner. Robredo also urged the Duterte administration to address its alleged low ranking among countries assessed for their COVID-19 response. Citing data from the World Health Organization, he said the Philippines ranked 32nd in total COVID-19 cases worldwide, 45th in the active COVID-19 cases, and 72nd in terms of case fatality rate.
Hindi po propaganda ang World Health Organization. Baka magalit ang World Health Organization dahil sinasabi nyo, nagpapakalat ng propaganda. Hindi po. World Health Organization po nagsabi kung nasa na tayo sa ating COVID response. At ito pong katotohanan. Bakit namin paniniwalaan ang ibang pag-aaral? Samantalang lahat tayo nagtitiwala sa World Health Organization sa panahon ng pandemya. Ulitin ko po, no? Tatlong bansa pa lang po sa Asia ang nagpapabakuna na. Ang bansang Singapore, 1% pa lang ng population. Ang bansang Indonesia, 0.19 pa lamang. At ang bansang India, 0.27. So, Evelyn, hindi totoo na nahuhuli po tayo. Sabay-sabay lang tayo kasama ng ating mga karatig bansa. May ibang kaunting nauna, pero kakaunti pa lang po ang nababakunahan nila. On track po tayo, mababakunahan natin minimum 50 million bago po matapos ang 2021.
President Rodrigo Roa Duterte is still determined to focus on eradicating corruption until he steps down next year. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said Duterte is fully aware of the extent of corruption within national and local government. That is why he is trying his best to address it. Reports from the global watchdog Transparency International shows that the Philippines ranked 115th out of 180 countries and territories in the Corruption Perception Index compared to 113th in 2019. It said the country has already dropped 2 places in terms of corruption.
Well, alam niyo po ang presidente talagang problemado din dyan. Kasi nga parang walang katapusan itong problema ng korupsyon. Ngayon po, sinusubukan niya yung public shaming, yung pagbabasa ng mga pangalan para magsilbing halimbawa sa iba na kay corrupt, talagang mababasa ang pangalan mo dyan. No? Pero bukod pa po dyan, nandyan na nga po yung opisina ng ARTA para mabawasan yung korupsyon, maalis yung diskresyon sa panig ng mga ahensya ng gobyerno. Nandyan din po yung Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission, PACC, no? Na bukod pa doon sa ombudsman dahil alam natin na kakaunti lang ang personal ng ombudsman na talagang hindi sapat doon sa gravity ng problema.
Malacanang urged the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR, to shed light on the reason why Chinese dredging vessels were reportedly conducting illegal dredging activities in the country. The Philippine Coast Guard and the Bureau of Customs earlier seized a Chinese dredger for illegal and unauthorized presence in Orion Point in Bataan.
Well, malinaw naman po, no? Yung vessel na yan ay inaresto at siya po ay dadaan sa proseso na sang-ayon sa ating batas dito sa Pilipinas. Pero mga kababayan, ang tanong, saan ginagamit itong mga dredging vessels na ito? Baka naman yan ay ginagamit dito sa ilang mga lugar sa Pilipinas na may pagpayag ng mga lokal na pamahalaan. So, ibig sabihin po, hindi naman pupunta yan dito kung walang gumagamit yan. At ang nais kong malaman, sana po mabigyan ng kasagutan ng DENR, ginagamit ba itong mga Chinese dredging vessels nito para kunin yung tanging yaman ng Pilipinas at ipadala sa ibang bansa.
Roque also dismissed claims that the military has been too focused on red tagging to guard Philippine waters versus threats posed by China.
Hindi po totoo na obsessed sila sa isa at napapabayaan ng isa. Nahuli nga po yung dredging vessel. Ano ba kayo? Kung natutulog sa pansitan ng ating hukbong sandatahan, di nakalusot yung dredging vessel na yan. The fact na nahuli belies the propaganda.
President Rodrigo Duterte welcomed the ratification of a treaty that would ban the development and use of nuclear weapons. He said the ratification builds on the Philippines' principled commitment to work towards the complete elimination of weapons of mass destruction. Duterte said it is in the interest of developing and developed countries alike to reduce, if not eliminate, nuclear risks and threats since their growth rides on the back of a secure and stable environment. He said nuclear proliferation is a real threat to global security as nuclear deterrence does not guarantee international peace and security. 23 senators on Monday voted to adopt Senate Resolution number 620, which prohibits state parties from allowing nuclear weapons in their respective territories. The 100th Malasakit Center officially opens today at the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine, or RITM, in Muntinlupa City. The Malasakit Center is an initiative of the Office of the President through then Special Assistant to the President and now Senator Christopher Lawrence Bongo. It is a one-stop shop for all government, medical, and financial aid targeting the poor and indigent Filipinos. It also aims to make healthcare assistance more convenient and accessible by putting all concerned government agencies under one roof. Present during the inauguration are Health Secretary Francisco Duque III, Senator Bongo, Secretary Rolando Bautista, Secretary Michael Lloyd Dino, Secretary Martin Andanar, and RITM Director Celia Carlos.
Ng one-time na 10 million pesos po sa medical assistance for indigent patients. Dito rin po sa RITM. Ganito po, sa mga pasyente na nakikinig dito ngayon, ganito po ang gagawin ninyo. Pag meron kayong bill sa hospital, 67,000, lapitan nyo po ang Malasakit Center. Tutulungan kayo ng PhilHealth, tutulungan kayo ng PCSO, tutulungan kayo ng DOH at DSWD. At kung may balanse pa kayo, ay babayaran po ng pondong iniwan dito. Ang target po ng Malasakit Center ay zero balance na po at wala na pong babayaran ang ating mga pasyente.
Available quality healthcare for the Filipino people, especially those at the fringes of society. Lalong-lalo na po ang ating mga kababayan na mga talaga naman naghihirap. At malaki po ang kahulugan at kabuluhan ng ating Malasakit centers, and RITM enjoys its being the 100th Malasakit Center. And this is certainly apropos, and it is during this very auspicious event that we are celebrating the 100th Malasakit Center here in the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine.
Amid the government's efforts to curb the spread of COVID-19, as well as the presence of the UK variant in the country, health officials are pleading to the public to observe proper health protocols. This also includes the proper wearing a face mask, and some people are not wearing it the proper way. What can we do to educate the people on the proper wearing of a face mask? Let us watch the opinion of some of our kababayans here in Our Boses ng Masa.
Ano po, dapat na pagsabihan kasi iba po, wala nga yung pandemic dyan sa pandemic. Pagsabihan na lang po.
Para sa akin, pagsabihan muna. Kung sa sunod, ganun pa rin ang talagang kailangan may na yan. May parusa para hindi magaya ng iba, hindi po marisan.
Siguro po, bigyan na lang po siya ng penalty or Kasi kung ikukulong naman, parang naman yun. Ang karampatang penalty po para sa akin ay pagmultay na lang po siya kung nararapat po.
Kagawad po ako ng Barangay Holy Spirit kasi. Yan ang problema po namin. Wala na kaming ginawa kundi maghabol sa gabi. Lalo na sa mga kabataan na nasa lansangan na umpok-umpok, wala na talaga sila social distance. Plus talagang wala na silang face mask. Actually, sa barangay namin, ang dami po ngayon nakakulong. Kinulong namin. Parang safe pa for safekeeping lang. Para po sa mga, karamihan pa doon, may mga edad na eh.
Kung ako lang yung nagbibigay ng parusa, kahit yung mga magbabayad na lang na ganun, kasi syempre hindi ka naman naman magbabayad kung susunod ka, di ba? Nasa iyo pa rin naman yun. Eh di kung ayaw mong magbayad, sumunod ka, di ba? Bigyan na lang sila ng warning muna kung, di ba, may mga first warning, second warning naman yan. Kung sa after nung mga warning na yun, hindi pa rin sila nakikinig, then siguro i-ano na sila sa police or barangay, ganun, para masabihan sila talaga na kailangan talaga na dapat sundin yung ganong protocols.
Siguro po ay para matandaan nila at madisiplina, medyo bigatan ng konti kasi doon sa mga inaano natin ngayon. Halimbawa, kahit isang buwang kulong, ganun, pwede na.
Still to come, various multi-sectoral groups are pushing for the passage of the anti-terrorism law. And investigators said extortion is the motive behind the bombing in Tulunan, North Cotabato. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Alamin kung paano ang tamang pagsusuot ng surgical mask. Una, hawakan ang mask sa strap at siguruhing natatakpan nito ang inyong bibig at ilong. Tandaan, ang may kulay na bahagi ng mask ang dapat nasa labas. Ito lamang ang tamang paraan ng pagsuot nito. Ihulma ang nose piece o maliit na metallic strip ayon sa hugis ng inyong ilong. Iwasan ang paghawak sa inyong ilong at bibig. Kung marumi na ang mask, hubarin ito gamit ang strap at itapon ito sa isang basurahan. Siguruhin ang maayos na paghuhugas ng kamay gamit ang sabon at tubig. Ang surgical mask ay dapat gamitin ng mga pasyenteng may sakit sa baga o mga taong mayroong ubo, sipon at lagnat, mga nag-aalaga sa mga may sakit, at mga healthcare at frontline workers. Maaari ring magsuot nito kung kayo ay pupunta sa matataong lugar. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. Various multi-sectoral groups rallied behind government lawyers who defended the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020 in oral arguments at the Supreme Court on Tuesday. Members of the League of Parents of the Philippines, Liga Independencia Pilipinas, Sulong Maralita, Youth for Peace and Development, Hands Off Our Children, and Yakap ng Mga Magulang put up tarpaulins bearing messages of support for the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020. LPP Chair Remy Rosario said the move is part of the group's condemnation against the atrocities perpetrated by the communist terrorist groups and other terrorist organizations, including the recruitment of children. She said this could be a tougher response against the threat of terrorism and armed insurgency in the country. Jose Antonio Goitia, Secretary General of LIPI, said the move also seeks to boost the morale of the government lawyers. Goitia said the anti-terrorism law is crucial to defending national security. The World Health Organization is considering to include the AstraZeneca AZD1222 vaccine in its emergency use listing, or EUL. This as the Philippines is set to receive over 9 million indicative doses of it within the month. WHO Country Representative Dr. Rabindra Abiyasinghe made the reaction after the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, granted an emergency use authorization for AstraZeneca as vaccine. Abiyasinghe noted that the COVAX initiative could only deliver the vaccines listed under the EUL. He said they hope to complete the process of reviewing the vaccine portfolio within the next week or two. Apart from AstraZeneca, Abiyasinghe said the WHO is also reviewing Moderna's portfolio for its vaccine to be included in the EUL. He added that the WHO might finish reviewing Sinovac's vaccine in March. Meanwhile, border controls in Negros Oriental remain tight and precautions over reports of suspected cases of the UK variant of COVID-19. More on this and other news from the provinces from Lade Cabagani.
Negros Oriental is not easing its border control even as major access points in 2 of its municipalities have allowed travel to and from neighboring Negros Occidental. The decision of the local government units of Valle Hermoso and Mabinay to open their borders still need the approval of the Regional Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases in Region 7. The statement came amid reports of some suspected cases of the UK variant of the COVID-19 already in Negros Occidental. The provincial IATF and the local IATFs of the 2 cities will be meeting soon to discuss the current situation, while Mabinay and Valle Hermoso LGUs are asked to put up their individual border control measures for the meantime. Meanwhile, the local government of Borongan City in Eastern Samar lifted on Monday the 2-week hard lockdown enforced in communities near the city's commercial district. Mayor Jose Ivan Dayan Agda said the city health office was able to trace and isolate all COVID-19 suspects in villages with suspected clustering of COVID-19 cases. Agda said lifting some restrictions will allow businesses and other stakeholders to recover from the stringent protocols imposed when the city recorded a sudden surge of COVID-19 cases. In other news, the Emergency Operations Center in Cebu City said the city government is ready to receive the COVID-19 vaccines. Councilor Joel Garganera said the city has readied its storage facility where they can keep the vaccines at its required temperature before the massive inoculation starts this month. Transport facilities are also being prepared for the distribution of the vaccine to clustered barangays. The EOC has been educating Cebuanos on the importance of getting the vaccines now, while the national government is working hard for the recovery of the country's economy. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Laid Kabagani.
The Special Investigation Task Group SIBSIB has tagged the Alcobar extortion group in the bombing incident in Tulunan, North Cotabato that killed 1 and injured 3 others. Tulunan Police Chief Major June Napat said the group was identified based on the bomb fragments that matched with the improvised bombs used by the Alcobar group in the past. He said the bombing survivors also managed to distinguish 2 suspects as the ones who planted the bomb. Napat said extortion on the bus company was the primary motive in the bombing. The Tulunan bombing was connected to another bomb planted in a bus unit that was disarmed by the EOD team at the Kidapawan City Overland Terminal last month. In our business news, the government's 2021 infrastructure program is expected to partly boost the Philippines' manufacturing sector this year and help address the contraction in domestic growth and economic activities because of the pandemic. The infrastructure program is aimed to be around 1 trillion annually from 2016 to 2022. Rizal Commercial Banking Corporation, or RCBC Chief Economist Michael Ricafort said the program is expected to support the expansion of the 52.5 of the Market Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index, or PMI. The uptick in the PMI last December is better than the 49.2 last November, indicating further pickup in economic activities. The impact is likewise seen to boost the other expected growth drivers this year, which include the continued reopening of the domestic economy, eventual availability of COVID-19 vaccines, and the impact of monetary easing last year. Up next, Iligan City prepares for the rollout of COVID-19 inoculation in their area. And village watchmen or barangay tanods in Iloilo City received Japanese bikes to boost their mobility. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Alamin ang tamang paraan ng pag-ubo upang mapigilan ang paglaganap ng Coronavirus Disease 2019. Ugaliing magdala ng panyo o tissue. Kung uubo o babahing, takpan ang buong ilong at bibig gamit ang panyo o tissue. Kung walang dalang panyo o tissue, maaaring gamitin ang braso na pantakip. Kung nakararamdam na kailangan umubo o bumahing, agad na dumistansya sa mga tao sa paligid. Huwag dumura kung saan-saan, gumamit ng tissue at itapon sa basurahan. Ugaliin ang paghuhugas ng kamay at paggamit ng alcohol o hand sanitizer upang mamatay ang mikrobyo. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
After President Rodrigo Duterte registered himself on the Philippine Identification System or PHILSYS on January 21, more Filipinos expressed enthusiasm to sign up for the national ID. Queries flooded Philippine Statistics Authority as to when they could register after photos of Duterte undergoing the registration made rounds on social media. The PSA, however, clarified that registration for the general public has yet to start as low-income households have been prioritized. PSA 11 Regional Director Ruben Abaro earlier announced that the PHILSYS registration in Davao Region resumed on January 18. Abaro said PSA data collectors are conducting house-to-house visits to inform heads of households on the necessary documents for registration. The PSA said it will come up with an announcement for the registration of the general public this year. PHILSYS aims to register majority of Filipinos by the end of 2022 and assures registration of the general public this year. Iligan City is preparing for the implementation of the government's immunization program against COVID-19. The local government asked the public to participate and cooperate with the vaccination. Claire Gighe has the story.
The local government of Iligan City, together with the effort from the national government through the Department of Health or DOH, spearheaded the commencement of vaccine rollout in the city. This is to intensify information drive and training among the 3,000 healthcare workers, paving way for a successful execution of the coronavirus disease 19 or COVID-19 immunization. During the said orientation, the LGU through the City Health Office huddled healthcare workers both from the public and private sectors to act as major implementers when planned inoculation is carried out. The local health department said the local government's vaccination plan is strictly in line with the national government's program. Part of the immunization program is forming vaccination teams, which is composed of 5 medical personnel and 1 doctor. Among the priorities in the inoculation program are the frontline health workers, indigent senior citizens, remaining indigent population, and uniformed personnel. This will then be followed by the teachers and school health workers both in public and private institutions, all government workers both in local and national government, essential workers in agriculture, food industry, transportation and tourism, socio-demographic groups at significantly higher risk other than the senior citizens, and indigent population such as persons with disability or PWDs and residents in high-density areas. The local government will also prioritize overseas Filipino workers, other remaining workforce, and students. With the conducted rollout, the participants are seen to be positive and open to be channels for government's vaccination efforts.
Isip po sa pagka-health advocate, no? Patag yung tingunuhaan na ang tanan mag-appeal sa tuang vaccination program na gina-activate sa tibok.
Meanwhile, EOC Cluster Manager Dr. Belinda Lim said that although the government desires to get everyone immunized with the vaccine, it is not mandatory. Thus, it is not forcibly implemented and people may opt to avail or reject the free vaccination. She also stressed the vital role of media during the campaign, which is to intensify dissemination of fact-based information and help the government contain fake news and misconceptions about the immunization, as well as convince the public to be inoculated.
Karong panahon na dako kayo ang role sa media. Dako jud kayong tabang sa media kung buligan jud ang gobyerno because dako akong pagtuo o confident kay kung makatabang jud ang media para pagpasabot sa mga katawhan o pag-assure sa mga tawo nga namati the vaccine. We need the vaccine so that makadevelop yung herd immunity.
For PNA Newsroom, Claire Gigha of the Philippine Information Agency, Iligan City Information Center.
The Department of Science and Technology vows to continue to assist startups, including overseas Filipino workers, as part of the government's efforts to rebuild the economy. Secretary Fortunato de la Peña reiterated the importance of startups for generating employment. The DOST has the Small Enterprise Technology Upgrading Program, or SETUP, which helps improve productivity and competitiveness of MSMEs. The program aims to encourage them to adopt technological innovations to improve their products and operations. The DOST also says there are 48 technology business incubators across the country which were provided with equipment for manufacturing, information and communications technology, among others. Other companies are encouraged to partner with institutions for research and development via the Collaborative Research and Development to Leverage Philippine Economy, or CRADLE program. De la Peña also said the DOST has launched the Innovation for Filipinos Working Distantly from the Philippines, which aims to provide returning OFWs with a no-interest loan as well as training. In our foreign news, the United States said Sunday that it is alarmed by reports that the Myanmar military has seized power and arrested the country's top officials. In a statement, Press Secretary Jen Psaki and President Joe Biden has been briefed by National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan regarding the situation. The U.S. said it opposed what it perceived to be any attempt to alter the outcome of recent elections or impede Myanmar's democratic transition. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken also called on Myanmar's military leaders to release all government officials and civil society leaders. Earlier, the military declared its state of emergency hours after detaining State Councilor Aung San Suu Kyi, President Win Myint, and other senior members of the ruling National League for Democracy Party. It claimed the moves are being carried out due to election fraud in the November 8 elections. Armed Forces Commander-in-Chief Min Aung Hlaing has been installed as the country's president. In sports, non-professional sports leagues and sporting events are still not allowed to operate or resume amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Sports officials made the statement after a new grassroots basketball league named Batang Pilipino Basketball League, or BPBL, was formed last week. The Philippine Sports Commission, Games and Amusements Board, and Department of Health also reiterated that all non-professional sports events can only resume once the COVID-19 vaccine arrives. The three agencies have given the new league 15 days to explain why it has already put up a backbone for its inaugural staging. The BPBL is founded by Romeo Ebdane and youth basketball coach Ron Camara as the first commissioner. In a statement on January 27, Camara said that the league will adhere to the government's guidelines. The Iloilo City government turned over 54 Japanese bikes to watchmen of selected barangays on Monday. 21 Japanese bikes for the Barangay Bike Patrol came from the city government. Another 21 were donations from the Uswag Ilonggo and 12 from Iloilo Festivals Foundation Incorporated. Mayor Jerry Trenia said he hoped the bike could help in the mobility of barangay tanods where they patrol their barangays. Back in 2019, the city government provided bike patrols to the Iloilo City Public Safety and Transportation Management Office to aid them in guarding the esplanade and assist guests who come to visit the place. The mayor introduced the idea to ensure public safety and to stop vandals who try to destroy government projects and property. Here's another look at today's biggest stories. President Rodrigo Duterte assured that the government is trying its best to keep the Philippine economy afloat. Malacanang urges the Department of Environment and Natural Resources to look into the purpose of the Chinese dredging vessel in the country. Investigators said extortion is the motive behind the bombing in Tulunan, North Cotabato. And village watchmen or barangay tanods in Iloilo City received Japanese bikes to boost their mobility. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, visit our webpage or head on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day, everyone.